Welcome everyone. Before we start this session, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land Monash University operates, as well as paying our respects to their elders, past and present. Welcome everyone. It's great to have you join us for our session today, part 3 of the 5-part series on employability. Please note we have our recordings from our previous sessions online, the Faculty of IT events page. You'll need to click on the past events filter. We're very excited to have Steph from KPMG, Cam from CareerConnect, and Gavin, who is a current Bachelor of Computer Science student who recently completed an IBL placement with PwC in semester 2 of last year. Thank you for taking the time to support the Choose Your Own Adventure series. By way of a brief introduction, Stephanie Whedon from KPMG is a highly experienced digital transformation, technology, and data analytics professional with a significant experience in Australasia, leading merchandise management and merchandise planning solutions, workforce management implementations, and lifecycle printing data analytics solutions in the retail sector. This transpired into significant experience with Microsoft Azure platform and BI tools, data modeling to ensure single source of truth for the end business users, machine learning for advanced demand modeling, biometric data capture, and robotic process automation to reduce manual data transformation. We also have Cameron Brown, who's a program coordinator within CareerConnect, having spent the last 6 years at Monash University, responsible for instructional design and facilitation of a portfolio of employability workshops, events, and services to deliver and support career development of Monash University students. And finally, Gavin, who's, as mentioned, is currently in his final year of Bachelor of Computer Science, who was given the opportunity for an IBL placement with PwC as a data forensics intern. He's currently the president of the Wired Student Club, as well as the chief editor of the Byte newsletter, which is distributed amongst Faculty of IT students every 2 weeks. Apologies for Shauna Zhao, who was listed to attend today. Unfortunately had a clash, but she will be joining us for our final session on April the 7th. Again, as this is a Q&A style session, please submit your questions via the chat box if you do have any. Otherwise, you'll get an opportunity at the end of the session today to ask questions to any of our panelists. Okay, so let's begin. Let's jump into it. We'll start off with Cam from CareerConnect. Cam, can you give me a brief insight into what you do at CareerConnect?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, KJ. So at CareerConnect, we provide employability learnings and outcomes for all of Monash students. Our vision is really to have you take control of your own career direction. We will give you the skills and the abilities to be able to move as seamlessly as possible from your university degree into the working world. But it has to be driven by you. If you don't engage with what we do, if you don't come to us, if you don't realize the importance of the career services, you're not really going to get much out of it. We know from the data that we do collect from the students that engage with us that they get the jobs that they want much quicker than the students who don't engage with us. We have a huge number of workshops. We have multiple tools to help you develop. But when I do these type of events and when I talk to students, it's really just about you recognizing that you have to be the one that takes control of your own career. No one is going to come up to you and say, here is your dream job on a platter. You really have to work, and it's not always going to be easy, but that's where we are here to support you and to help you go through those times or those areas that you may not be as familiar with, because we specialize in all areas of employability. There's definitely something that we can do to help you, no matter where you are in your career journey.
And what type of workshops can I find at CareerConnect? What type of things do you have on offer?
Yeah, so we do a lot of the, we call them how-to workshops. These are what I would like to describe as the foundations of your career building. These are the documents that you will submit when you apply for a job. So resume, cover letter, key selection criteria, you'll do an interview, and also your LinkedIn. So we do workshops on those. I could talk about each of those topics for an hour or more. I regularly do talk about those topics for a long period of time. That's not the goal here today. The goal here today is for you to understand what we offer and come and engage with us. We also do resume checks, so we can check your resume for you. We have AI systems that do that, and we also have a team of trained staff who will check your resume for you. We can do interview practice for you. We also, yeah.
Sorry, just quickly on resumes.
Yeah.
Is there like maybe a couple of tips or kind of insights that you can give us that may help us on our CV journey?
Yeah, so the biggest one, and it's probably the most common one, but there's a reason why it is the most common tip that everyone always gives, is tailor your resume to the role that you're applying for. It has to be tailored to the role that you're applying for. It has to include the key selection criteria. It has to show that you are interested in this organization. The reality is we know that students will be applying to a number of organizations, but every time you apply, you have to make that organization feel like this is the job that you want. This is the job that you are dreaming of, because if you don't, there will be people who do that and you will be passed by. So it's much better to spend more time submitting less job applications. And I know that sounds weird. You might think the more I submit, the better chances I have. If they're all generic, you'll get knocked back straight away. So always tailor your resume to the specific job that you are applying for. Always link your skills to the skills that they are looking for as an organization.
And do you have workshops where they talk about these skills and how to, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So key selection criteria, we have a workshop on that, and that is probably the basis of all the documents that I mentioned. So resume, cover letter.
And these are key selection criteria. That's also known as behavioral questions, correct? Is that, or
yes,
is that
potentially? Yeah. So key selection criteria are the criteria that an organization is looking for. So these are the skills that you must possess, or it's highly recommended that you possess to succeed in that role. So essentially what you need to do in every stage of the recruitment process is convince the recruiter that you have the skills, show them that you can come in straight away, you can get the job done, and they don't have to spend too much time training you up, because you are already aware of what you need to do and how you are going to do the things that they need done.
So how would we find CareerConnect? Is it in person or online, or how do we?
Yeah, so we have a website. All of our workshops are booked in online. CareerConnect at Monash. I'll pop the link in the chat in a moment. We also have a presence on campus. So if you wanted to come and speak to one of our staff members, we have a reception at Clayton campus, open from 9 a.m. till midday every single day. But the best way to contact us is through our email address if you have a specific question once you've had a look at our resume. We are here to support every single student, and I do manage the team who responds to all student inquiries, and we do make sure we get back to every single student because we know how important it is, and we know how stressful it is trying to find that first job after you graduate.
And there was just a question in the chat itself asking if CareerConnect also looks after PhD students.
Absolutely. Yeah. We offer career advice no matter what stage you are in your career. And we offer that advice up to 12 months after you've completed your course as well.
That's really,
even
that's
after
really good to know.
Your course, you've graduated, we still offer our services to you because we know you still may be needing them during that time.
That's great. That's great to hear. What should, and is there any recommendations for international students? Yeah?
So international students is a really big focus. It's actually really great timing that I'm coming to speak to you today, because this whole week is International Student Employability Week. So maybe some of the students who are joining us here today have been to some of the sessions. If you haven't, that is okay, because I will be emailing out the link with all the recordings to the students who have registered for our events this week. We have one event on tonight, which is a panel of alumni. So these are international students who have graduated and moved into full-time work in Australia. They're going to be offering their advice and what they did to make that shift. And then we have 2 more sessions tomorrow. So again, I'll put the link to that down in the chat in a moment. If you can, I'd love you to come along and support those events tonight. Otherwise, just register for one. Even if you can't come along, you'll be on the list that I email all the recordings out to next week if you're interested in viewing those.
That's really good to hear. And just finally, what tips can you give a student who's nervous about interviewing or nervous about their first job interview?
It's super, super common. So don't feel like you are alone. I guarantee every single person here, every single person ever, I would say, no matter what level they are, has felt nervous at some point about a job interview or being assessed or those sorts of things. The important thing is to recognize that everyone feels that way. Some people can manage their nerves more naturally than others. If you can, you're lucky, but it is a skill that you get better with practice. I guarantee you that. The more you practice, the better you get. If someone is naturally good at managing those emotions and naturally good at interviews, a person who practices will still be better than the person who is naturally good if that person who is naturally good doesn't practice. So it is a skill. People think you're either born with it or you're not. That is not true at all. It is something that you can develop, you can practice, but it just involves putting yourself out there, putting yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit to build those skills slowly. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's what we're here for as CareerConnect. We offer you those tools to first learn about how you need to, what you need to do to excel in an interview, and then we give you the tools to practice them.
That's really good to hear. That's really good to know. Well, look, Cam, thank you for your time. I know you've, as you mentioned, you've got the other session starting at 5 o'clock. But if there's anything that, any keynote or anything you wanted to leave our students with here today?
Look, I would just encourage you to come and see us. Regardless of what stage you're at, as I said before, we will have something for you, whether you are looking for a part-time job because you have just started university, and you've never done a resume before, but you want to apply to McDonald's or for example, we can help you with that. Alternatively, if you're in your final year of your PhD and you're looking to either move into the industry or looking to potentially move into research, we do help students who are wanting to do that as well. So no matter what level you are, there's always something that you can do to improve, but it does take effort from you. No one is going to come to you and say, you need to do this. You have to seek it out yourself.
Well, appreciate your time, Cam. Thank you. And I hope everyone does reach out to CareerConnect at some point whilst they're at Monash, because they're a great service.
Awesome. And I will post that the link for the International Student Week events down in the chat. Lovely.
Sounds good. Thank you, Cam. Okay, we have Steph here, as mentioned, from KPMG. How's it going? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me, I'll just start the phone.
Always happens. That's okay.
Yeah, hi KJ. Hi, everybody.
So if possible, can you just give us a quick kind of brief background about what you do and how you got there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, I guess what I'm doing at the moment, I'm a director at KPMG here in the Melbourne office. I've only been at KPMG for a short time, only 5 months. What I do at KPMG, I work in a little division called Strategy, Growth and Digital. There's about 50 people in that team, and I've got a team of about 5 or 6 people, which is growing. Interestingly, what I'm doing right now at KPMG is working in data and analytics in the ESG field, which is environment, social, and governance. And within the social area, we have got a team that is looking at wage compliance, and we're looking at, you've probably heard in the news, some of the big retailers, big companies have been in the news lately, probably over the last few years, about underpaying their staff. And it's not intentional, it's because the industrial relations instruments and industrial relations landscape is extremely complex here in Australia. So what we do is we verify that companies are paying their employees correctly. And if they're not, we provide them with information on where, you know, they've underpaid or where they've paid incorrectly. So we really are putting money back into people's hands. And to do that, we've got a data analytics team that is analysing their data, looking at calculations, and we're looking more, it's not only lagging indicators, but leading indicators, and looking using AI and data modelling, machine learning, where some of the trouble areas really lie. So yeah, that's what
a lot of
we're
our
doing at
postgrad
KPMG.
students are doing at the moment, actually. So yeah, that's really good to hear.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But just to give you a bit of how did I get there? Well, I've had a background, I guess the last 6 years has been in data and analytics. Before KPMG, I worked at Newcrest Mining and led their BI team. So, you know, they're very much into sensors and Internet of Things and AI to try and optimize their profits and mining all of their ore and getting the right ore into the ground. But prior to that, I spent about 15 years in retail doing data analytics and digital transformation. So I guess this was the next logical progression at KPMG.
Yeah,
it's been
exactly.
Yeah,
long time. Yeah, that's great. So I guess when it comes at looking at graduates who are applying and they want to know if the company's right for you or would I be a right fit, what would you suggest they do?
Well, yeah, that's a really, really, really good point. I think you should research the company. Well, firstly, I find what is it you really want to do, and sometimes there is a natural alignment, natural fit between what your career aspirations are with the organisation that you join. So I think that's the first thing. And secondly, I would research the organisation and research the people that are in the organisation, such as the board. And a few of the leadership team, if you can. Google is fantastic when it comes to researching. And thirdly, if you know of anyone that works for those companies, so for example, if you've got any friends, parents who are partners in these organisations, that's always a really great way to find out really about, the website. Is the website just propaganda, or do they really walk the talk? So that's what I would suggest doing.
That's great advice. So obviously the graduate application process is quite competitive. How would one set themselves apart or say they want to make themselves stand out from the pack?
Okay, well, I guess maybe I can start with what we're sort of looking for, because I guess there's got to be a bit of alignment. And I'm going to start firstly with what the KPMG values are, what our core values are. And it's probably going to sound really cliche and the same as all the other organisations there, such as PwC or Deloitte, but very much around integrity, doing what we do, making sure we're doing the right thing, especially when we're working with our clients. So that's a huge thing. Secondly, is around excellence. We want to make sure we're delivering excellence, just like you are today, with your assignments and with your university work. Courage, you want to think and act boldly. And it doesn't matter who you are, it always takes courage to step up and to make sure you are doing the right thing. Togetherness, respecting each other, the whole diversity and inclusion agenda, I think is really important, and for better, making sure we do things that matter and work as a team. So that's in terms of the values. So I guess what we're looking for is around social impact. With the whole ESG agenda, we are looking at the social impact. So what is your agenda? Have you been doing any sort of social work? Do you have any causes? I think that is really, really important, because it shows you're really passionate about something. The other thing is work experience. Now, work experience is great to have, whether it's paid or unpaid, but it's not essential. So if you've never worked before, you're obviously not going to rule yourself out of a job, but work experience is handy and it doesn't have to be paid. Any extracurricular activities is important, because you might like going down to Phillip Island and see the penguins, and it might be great to be able to connect. I think emotional intelligence is really important as well, and just showing that you have got the potential to be innovative and to grow, because that's really what we're looking for at KPMG. You might start out in one area within KPMG, but like Cam said, you are going to take your own control of your career at KPMG. So it's very much driven by, about your attitude, about how you grow and develop, because really at KPMG, the world is your oyster. So I don't know if I really answered the question, but I think broadly, it's everything is around ESG. What is your social sort of and footprint there around EI and, you know, those things I just mentioned. So it might again sound pretty broad, but it's probably really tapping into who are you, you know, and what can you offer is really important.
So
There's only one of you.
Would it be best for students to kind of identify the type of company that they want to work for first before?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Now, you know, of course, KPMG has been a fantastic company, but can I give you an example? My example,
Yeah.
my passion has always been fashion. You know, I was a fashion designer. I used to work part-time through uni designing clothes. So my first affiliation was always retail and always fashion. So I was always researching organisations that would fit that bill. Having said that, KPMG does work in the retail industry. So if you specifically want to work in an industry silo, well, KPMG can accommodate that. So if it was me, I'd look at what is my passion? Do I have any passion projects? I would start there.
Oh, that's great. So going off topic slightly, so has the pandemic affected the number of positions available?
Not at all. Not at all. And interestingly, this graduate intake in 2022, we had 800 graduates. Now that is a record number. I can't quote what we had last year, but it has not affected the graduate intake at all. If anything, KPMG is on a growth trajectory, and we'll be looking at that number or more for the 2023 intake, which I know the applications are opening actually this week. The process starts.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know.
Yeah.
I guess there was always a fear that, you know, jobs may not be available or things of that nature, but by the sounds of things,
opposite.
That's
quite the opposite. Yeah, and so it's really encouraging for everyone on the call.
Sure. And can I ask you about the recruitment process and onboarding at KPMG? What's that like?
The recruitment process, do you mean right from the application phase, or
so say you've accepted me, you've accepted my resume, and you've said, come on, let's have an interview. Would it generally be a one-on-one situation or a group interview, or do you know how that works?
Yeah, we usually have got a panel. So we've got, I think there's around 3 or 4 on the panel. I'm not really specific, but I can, sure. If anyone really is interested, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. But we do have panel interviews to get things started as part of that recruitment process. And let me just see. So we've got video interviews, which was mostly done via Zoom through the pandemic, but I believe starting again, they wanting to do more face-to-face interviews. I actually haven't got a lot of information about that, KJ, I'm sorry. But in terms of the onboarding, I can tell you more about the onboarding, because we recently just did the onboarding for the graduates. So in our team, we had 9 graduates, and the onboarding process is 2 days of a sort of corporate induction program, and then there's 3 days of induction within the team that you're in. So you have 2 days sort of global and 3 days within your team, and then following that you sort of align to a practice within your team, and then you have sort of daily check-ins with your team leader, and that's sort of how it progresses. So we absolutely value the graduates that come on board. We want to make sure you have the best onboarding experience, and given we've just had nine come through our team, I think they've all been pretty happy with, you know, how they're happy they've joined KPMG, put it that way. So yeah,
that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
And how would you recommend students kind of gear up for an interview or gear up for the panel before they?
Yeah, I think that following the guidelines that Cam had, actually, I think Cam really pretty much hit on the nail. I think be prepared, research the company, look at you. Just go onto YouTube and listen to some of the interviews by the partners, particularly in the area that you're really interested in. Practice interviewing in the mirror or with some of your family members. Research the most commonly asked questions. You know, you've got to have your own style. You've got to have your own sort of flair. So really just be yourself And like Cam said, if you're not nervous, there's probably something wrong. I mean, even moving to KPMG, I was sort of nervous going to interviews. So it's absolutely normal. So I don't have a silver bullet, but just be prepared. As Cam said, it's not about, you know, have you got the gift of the gab? It's, are you prepared? And do you really know about this company? And why? What are your reasons for wanting to join that company? You really need to be crystal clear on that.
And you mentioned you've just hired 9 new grads, and I'd imagine they're all very, I mean, like, are they all vastly different, or do they all kind of have the same core values? Is that what you guys look for? Or
interesting. Well, you know, when you're recruiting people, the recruiter's probably got a good idea of their core values.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, alignment to core values is really important, and you know, the diversity and inclusion agenda. In our team of 9, we've got 6 females and 4 males, and they come from all different areas. Yes, IT focused, some in digital data science, some had more of a commercial type background, some had more of a business sort of IT general type background. So I'd say that it's around, it's probably more around your attitude and your alignment to core values, more than the actual degree that you've undertaken. So technical capability is really very important, and the alignment to our practice is really important, but you can't sort of teach people attitude. So that is, it's just so important now.
That's what I wanted to come to again, say with soft skills and things. Obviously, having a good attitude has to be critical, because we have to work in teams now, right? We're no longer in university. It's not as relaxed. Time management comes into play. So what would you say, I guess, would be some soft skills that a student should try and focus on before they get to their real world job?
Okay, I think the number one thing is listening. If you want to build rapport with someone really quickly, they're going to know straight away if you're not listening to them. You know, I could be here and I could be typing and not really focused, and that really is a put off. So I'd say listening is just so important. Making that eye contact is really important. I think that's probably the number one, honestly, because it's showing the highest sign of respect if you can actually show that you are listening attentively and playing back what has been said.
That's great.
That's what I suggest. Yeah.
KJ, can I just jump in and give some advice on that one as well?
Yeah.
From a Monash perspective, we actually have a platform called Student Futures. We went out to a number of major industry employers of graduates and said to them, what are the most important transferable or soft skills that graduates need to have? And Steph is absolutely right. Communication, which encompasses listening, is the most important one by far that all the organizations identified as being the most important. Again, Steph hit the nail on the head. The technical skills are important. You need them to be able to complete a degree, but everyone has those skills who have graduated with that degree. If you've graduated from a degree, you have those skills. You need to think about what sets you apart from someone else. What skills have you developed around your degree that make you a really good employee? These are the 9 employability skills. And I'll put the link into the chat again for Monash Student Futures. You can go on there and you can look at the different skills that we've identified. You can look at how you can develop them. There's opportunities on that platform to get involved. And once you've sort of evaluated your skills, and there's even a self-evaluation tool on the website there. So you can evaluate, you can see, where do I need to do better? And then there's opportunities to start building and growing those skills. And there's never, it's never too early, I like to say, to start developing those skills. It doesn't matter where you are in your development. Obviously, earlier the better, but it doesn't matter if you haven't started. Now is the perfect time, because that you're only going to need them in every single job that you do. It doesn't matter where you end up in the future. I mean, I used to work as an industrial electrician for 8 years, and now I teach careers. So it's only because of those transferable skills that we could make these moves, and you will make the same moves in your future as well. The job that you get after you graduate will not be the job that you hold for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list too, Cam, actually.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you after.
Can I just add one more thing? Thank you, Cam. The other thing I want to say is what I've noticed with the 9 grads that have started in our team, the ones that show the most, how do I say this? The ones that are the most eager to learn, the most eager to get in, get their hands dirty, just jump on something when I say, look, you know, who wants to have a go at this, and just jump at it, you know, showing how keen they are to want to do something. Is just number one as well. I think you really need to show and have the other person feel that you really are there, you really want to learn, you're really committed, you're going to show the initiative, and that you can run with it. Even if you come back 3 or 4 times with questions, at least you know it's showing that you're thinking about what you're doing. So I think that is really important. How you can stand out is my view as well.
And
KJ, can I just say one thing, just in terms of the interview process? One of the key things I think would be really great is if you know what's happening in the industry. You know, if you're interviewing for a particular area, you really need to be on the pulse with what's happening there in the industry. What are the challenges? So in AI, what are the challenges in AI? What are the challenges in data analytics? You know, what are the challenges with data governance? That is really important to know. So sorry, KJ, I couldn't think at the time, but that's quite important as well.
That's a great
how
point
you can
too.
set yourself apart.
Yeah, really shows that you're keen on that role and you know what you're talking about.
That's right.
That's right. General answers. So that's really good.
Yeah.
Was there any other kind of key points or anything that you wanted to a little giveaway for our students?
Look, I mean, be confident. I feel the candidates that I've seen, the graduates that I've seen that are probably doing their best are the ones that are confident. The ones that are resilient, because sometimes there is ambiguity with any sort of situation in the workforce. There can be a certain degree of ambiguity. So I think learning to understand, recognise and deal with ambiguity is really important. And I think that you're going to learn that over time, but just realise that even when you're given your first assignment to do, you're not going to be told, you know, every single little thing. It's just like at uni, you need to make some assumptions, validate those assumptions, and just be confident in what you're doing. I think is just so important too.
Thank you. Sorry, Henry, did you have a question?
Yeah, hello. Hi, Steph.
Hello, Henry. Yep. Hi, Henry.
Yeah, good. I'm very I'm very lucky to join this meeting because I'm recently looking for a data analysis job, and I see the SIG, I see the LinkedIn, and I want to ask a question about that the certification is very important for the graduates who find a job.
I don't know what the recruitment team is looking for, but I wouldn't think that is the number one. No, I would say that you're just coming out, you've got a degree, you're going to have some experience, work experience, you're going to show what your social impact is, you're going to be able to show, you know, your attitude, your desire, your willingness to learn, because I think that certifications can certainly come afterwards. The industry is changing so quickly, and after the fact, I think building certifications, I think, becomes quite important, but personally, not when you're fresh out of uni.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Henry. Good luck.
Well, thank you for that, Steph. That was very insightful, and we really appreciate you taking the time out to answer our questions. I will move on to Gavin now. How's it going, Gavin?
Going well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So for our undergraduate students, obviously, you have the opportunity to do the industry experience project over 2 semesters, or if you're lucky, you get an IBL placement, an industry-based placement. So you got a nice placement last semester, I hear. Can you give me a bit of background on it and tell me how it went?
Yeah, so just last semester I did for the whole 6 months. I was there at PwC. Obviously, most of it was online, but I was there for a little bit at the end. But yeah, no, that was a great experience. I spent the majority of my time on a particular client project for an Australian bank, where I was doing data analysis / data forensics work, which essentially means me checking over their automatic processes and sort of simulating what should have happened and seeing what actually did happen, and then like rooting out little mistakes and so that they can be reported and fixed for the future and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it was interesting. It was great to like be able to sort of apply some of the stuff that I learned. Of course, it's a little bit different to what I've done in university, and it definitely feels very different to university as well. In terms of like actually working, in a wider team, working on something rather than just doing an assignment on your own. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. If you still have the opportunity to fit it into your degree, I would highly recommend applying for the IBL program.
And what were your thoughts when you first started this role of, your first kind of real world job experience and seeing how the professionals do it, so to speak? How was your adjustment, and what were your initial thoughts on your first few days?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know what to expect exactly, because it's not exactly clear what it will really be like when I get there. Like, or should I wear a suit, or like all those sorts of little questions apply as well. I obviously, because there's like all this sort of confidentiality and things like that as well. Like, it was a little bit hard for me. Like, I didn't really know what I would be working on either. If you're like a consultancy like PwC or KPMG, like you can't really tell other people what the company is or anything like that. Or so I wasn't really sure what to prepare for. I was just brushing up on everything that I knew, really. But yeah, I would say like the sort of the biggest shock coming from the student world to the business world, you just be like the cadence of the work. So like in university, kind of, at least maybe it's just me, I sort of work in big batches where I'll like work on an assignment for like a few hours at a time, and then you just stop, and you'll have some classes at 6 p.m. and some are 6 a.m. and it's a little bit sporadic, whereas the sort of the 9 to 5 schedule of real work outside of universities is definitely quite a shock. Although I would say you get used to it quicker than I thought anyway.
Yes, you're forced to get used to it, right? Otherwise, you could be unemployed. But yeah, no, that's very true. And obviously, that time management adjustment is quite a big thing. I think we forget how much time we have at university and almost take it for granted, because once you start your 9 to 5, time starts going very fast and spare time becomes very scarce. Yeah, so that was good. And were you able to make any connections? Did you network, get LinkedIn, like start building your network from your placement?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is some advice that I had received from the Monash staff before I'd begun the IBL, was to sort of use the opportunity to build the network. And so I think every day of my placement, I'd scheduled a new meeting with someone else in the company to just sort of catch up and talk to them and learn about what they're doing and they're part of the company, and just get to know more people and build a genuine connection, but also to connect with them on LinkedIn, so there's some way to contact them later on as well. But I guess you don't want to just send out LinkedIn invites to people you haven't met or anything, or you haven't really got a connection with. So definitely my LinkedIn swelled a lot after IBL. It's a really good opportunity to meet other people doing that.
I guess that also would have helped you get an idea of the culture as well, right? And how I guess people are thinking, how they're working, and to kind of mold towards the team to help you become a better team player, perhaps.
And just to like understand more what's happening in the company too. Like, especially if it's a large company, it's a little bit hard to sort of get a grasp on what's going on, especially when you're new, I guess. And so to have more people to talk to in different areas of the company too, just so that you, you know, some area of the company might be more interested in that than what you're actually doing now. And so you can sort of think about how you can do more of that kind of work, and they can help you to do that. And yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And yeah, just quickly, if students wanted to know more about the IBL program, do you know who they could speak to?
Yes, probably the way to go to begin with is the IBL webpage. So make sure you go to the IT one though, because there are other faculties run different IBL programs. So there's the Monash Faculty of IT IBL program, and there'll be contact details on there. Otherwise, you could probably email Stephen Huxford.
Stephen Huxford or Laurel Backhouse, the IBL. But I do believe there may be an IBL session next month. So I'm sure they'll contact all the students in relation to that.
Yeah, they send out emails when the programs begin and that, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, well, that's all I had. If anyone had any questions, feel free to ask in the chat or put your, take yourself off mute and ask yourself a question.
Hi, KJ, it's Catherine. We do have a question in the chat from Joanna. And I think this question is for Steph. And the question is, how would you say the prevalence of working from home due to the pandemic has changed work-life balance? It's a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's changed. I think obviously it's improved the situation. It's brought to the front the fact that we can work anywhere. And in fact, I heard over the last 2 years, there was more successful digital transformation project than any other time in history. So we know that we can work effectively remotely. And KPMG has got a policy of working 2 days in a particular hub, and we've got 3 different hubs. You can work at home, which is a home hub, client hub, or the office hub. So KPMG absolutely are endorsing still that working from home and work-life balance. So I think that it's some good things actually came out of the pandemic, and this work-life balance I think is definitely one of them, because people at any level within the organisation are really seeking it and wanting it. So it's a really welcome change. It's a great question.
Yeah, and once you're in, I guess would it be easier to then, if there's other roles in other sections of the company, is there like an internal kind of job availability?
There is. There's some comments. There is internal job postings, so you can apply internally or you can through the network. So Gavin's a really smart cookie. And I really love his approach with the IBL, every day making a new connection, because not only is it through the formal job postings, but it's through that informal network that you're actually creating and building those relationships with other directors and partners in the firm. So that's always going to be another way that you can move into another area of interest.
Yeah.
So no, that's well done on that.
And that
Gavin.
comes back to the confidence, right, of putting yourself out there and just taking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think when you're speaking to people, on a daily basis, you want to make sure that you've got something to offer. Why would they want to spend 15 minutes for you? You're going to have your own sort of elevated pitch, if I should say correctly. Yeah, that's my advice there.
Well, that's great. This has been a very informative session. Were there anyone else have any other questions for our panelists? No, all good. Well, I think that's fine. But
excuse me, yeah, can I ask one question? Yeah. Because I'm studying business information system. I'm not studying the data sets in the area, but I'm very interested in data analysis. So I learned some techniques by myself. But when I see their onboarding skills, I see their rules, there are always some 1 or 2 techniques that I've never learned before. So is that okay if I want to get a job, but I don't have all of the skills they require? Yeah, I'm very worried about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry. If I can answer that, and then maybe Gavin, from your experience, you can answer that as well. You're never going to have, I think, everything that an employer is looking for. So from a KPMG perspective, we just employed our graduates, and we were wanting one of our data science graduates to create a dashboard on Tableau, and they didn't have Tableau experience, but they learned and they picked it up really, really quickly. So we know that Henry's got the capability to learn and grow. So I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Okay, yep, makes sense. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I also have one more question for Steve. So can you recommend like what's coding language for if I want to do a data scientist? Is it Python, R, or anything else?
Yeah, well, commonly we are working mostly with Python and actually SQL, and R probably is useful when, from my experience, is if you're more in the data visualization space. So Python, I think, and SQL are ones that we are leveraging the most.
Yeah, at PwC, I used Python and SQL a lot.
Yeah.
Although I would also add on to that you may want to learn Pandas, which is a Python framework, which is commonly used in data science, if you haven't learned Pandas before. And also Selenium, if you're doing web scraping type stuff, which is often the case. You don't always have like structured data. So those might be some useful Python frameworks to learn. I think R is normally in like sort of scientific statistical applications, which as in when I say scientific, I mean like natural sciences. So like if you're doing population studies in biology or something like that. But I don't think most data scientists are using R very much. Oh, and potentially maybe MATLAB as well, depending on the company.
Yeah, no, I agree, Gavin. But I think that's a case in point, isn't it, Gavin? To Henry's point, it's changing all the time. And there's always new skills, there's new things that are coming to the table. So yeah, I think don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, and yeah, companies won't expect you to know all of the things. Like the job listings are a bit more like a wish list than a criterion list sometimes. So I guess the worst that will happen is if you apply and you don't get it.
Yes.
So you may as well try it, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, well, look, thank you all for attending the session. Thank you, panelists, for your vital information, your hidden gems that you've dropped on us. A lot of jewels were dropped for our students today, so thank you. And yeah, if there's anything else you'd like to hear about in the future, just reach out to student engagement, fit-studentengagement@monash.edu. Otherwise, thank you all for attending, and have yourselves a good Thursday afternoon. Thank you.